let's talk about a feeling that I think is way more common than we admit. You know that weirdly hollow, empty feeling that can show up right after our biggest wins? We're going to get into the real cost of living under constant pressure.
Okay, just think back for a second. Picture a huge goal you had. Maybe it was landing that dream job, finishing a degree, or just hitting some personal milestone you were chasing for ages. You finally get there. And then nothing, right? Not joy, not even relief, just a kind of quiet numbness. It's so confusing, and honestly, it's a real letdown. You're supposed to be popping the champagne, but instead you just feel blank. So let's break down exactly why that happens. To really get that feeling at the finish line, we have to rewind and look at the race itself. This is all about the anatomy of the chase, because the secret to that numbness, it's actually hidden in the journey we took to get there.
It really boils down to this. We chase that goal for so long, we pour every last ounce of our energy, our mental, our emotional energy into the grind, that by the time we actually arrive, there's just nothing left in the tank. We are literally too drained to enjoy our own success.
And this whole process, this emotional drain, it pretty much happens in 3 steps. First, that initial spark, that excitement you had at the beginning. It just can't last forever. It eventually burns out. Second, any potential joy gets completely smothered by the insane pressure to succeed. And finally, the whole reason you started in the first place, the actual meaning behind the goal, it gets buried under all the stress and the deadlines. The feeling just kind of erodes over time.
So how does all of that play out in the actual moment of achievement? Well, that brings us right here to the uncelebrated win. And this part is all about what we do, or maybe more accurately, what we don't do when we finally get the thing we wanted.
And here is the absolute crux of it. That numb feeling isn't because the win doesn't matter. No, it's because our brains have already left the building. We're so wired for the next challenge that before the confetti even has a chance to settle, we're already looking at the next mountain we have to climb.
And this kicks off a really powerful and kind of dangerous cycle. Instead of just pausing for a second, taking a breath, and letting the win sink in, we build this habit of just instantly moving on. We simply don't celebrate. And we don't just move on, we sprint. It's this relentless forward motion. The finish line of one race becomes the literal starting line for the next one, with zero downtime. There's no victory lap, just the sound of the next starting gun.
So, what do we actually call this whole thing? Well, this final section really gives it a name, and it gets right to the heart of the problem. We're talking about the cost of constant pressure.
And this is so important to understand. When we feel that emptiness, our first instinct is often to blame ourselves, right? We think, what's wrong with me? Am I ungrateful? But we have to totally reframe that. This feeling is not a personal failure. It has absolutely nothing to do with gratitude.
It's the cost of constant pressure. That's the diagnosis. It's the emotional bill that comes due after you've been living in that high stress, always on, gotta keep striving mode. It's burnout from the chase itself. It's not a character flaw. It's just the consequence of an unsustainable pace.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Forget the big milestones for a second and just think about your day-to-day life. That constant, low-humming pressure, what is it costing you? That's a really powerful question to sit with for a little while.